Good to see you all this morning. Got a good turnout on this beautiful Monday morning. Glad to have you here, being involved in your county government. It's the board's practice that prior to the commencement of our board meeting and before calling the meeting to order that a prayer be given. The board member who delivers the prayer may make reference to his or her own religious faith, just as you might refer to yours when offering a prayer. We wish to emphasize, however, that members of all religious faiths are welcome not only in these meetings, but in our community as well. The participation of all citizens in the process of self-government will help our Board of Supervisors to better serve the good people of Mecklenburg County. I will call on Mr. Tanner to lead us in prayer.
All right, let us pray. Lord God, you have promised where two or three are gathered together in your name, you will be in the midst of them and bless them. God, we ask you to give us the vision by which we can see your love in this world in spite of our failures. Enable us to draw upon the wisdom and experience of yesterday as we respond to the questions and concerns of tomorrow. Guide our hearts and minds that we may do your will and work together for the betterment of this county. Father God, we ask you for the blessings on the citizens of this county, our county employees and their families. And God, we ask you to keep your hand of protection upon our first responders and our military. This prayer we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I will now call this meeting of the Mecklenburg County Board of Supervisors to order and ask that you stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I do want to remind you, please, to either turn off or mute your cell phones so that we don't have those interruptions during our meeting. We do have several public hearings to conduct this morning, and also want to remind you about our citizens' comment period that we have. We would ask that you sign up at the back of the room if you wish to speak at the public comments. You do not need to sign up if you want to speak at the public hearing, only for the citizens' comments. But the our protocols for the public hearings and citizens' comment is each speaker will be given 3 minutes, and the time limit will be strictly enforced. There's a timer light to the left of each speaker. When the green light turns yellow, the speaker will have 1 minute remaining. When the yellow light turns red, the speaker's 3 minutes have elapsed. Citizens' comments is an opportunity for individuals to address the board. The board will not answer questions or engage in dialogue with any person addressing the board during citizen comments. If each speaker will provide his contact information on the sign-up sheet, county staff will follow up if necessary concerning matters addressed to the board by the speaker. And we appreciate if you would follow those rules. Thank you very much. All right, board, you have in your packet the minutes of the April 10th and 26th meetings. If there are no corrections to those minutes, Chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Before a motion is given, Mr. Chairman, I would like to, when Mr. Jenny begins to do his presentation, just to make a comment, please.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Motion to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the agenda, I do have a couple of additions. Under County Administrator's Report, add item 9. We need to approve an application for a CDBG grant in Chase City. Also down after board member matters, we do need to go into closed session to discuss legal matter. That's all the additions I have, no deletions. Anyone else have anything they wish to add or delete at this time? If not, I need a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adopt the amended agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, our first public hearings are rezoning applications. The first one is William and Edward Coleman. Mr. Henry?
You have an application by William and Edward Coleman Jr. to rezone from residential R1 to business B1. This property identified as county tax number 109-000-double-circle-A 154 and zoned as residential R1 is located on the north side of Highway 58 at its intersection with Highway 766 Tucker Lane. Election District 2, County of Mecklenburg, reference deed book LR-8-5395.
Okay, anyone representing William and Edward Coleman wish to speak before we go to public hearing? If not, the public hearing is now open to consider this rezoning application that you just heard read. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, please come forward at this time. Okay, seeing no one, the public hearing is now closed. What's the pleasure of the board? Whose district is that?
Number 2.
District 2.
So move that the application be approved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the application. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is application by Boynton LLC from agricultural to business B1.
You have an application by Boyd and LLC to rezone from agricultural to business B1. This property identified as county tax number 19000-A-131 and zoned as agriculture is located on the north side of Highway 766 Tucker Lane at its intersection with Highway 58, Election District 2, County of Mecklenburg, reference deed book LR-8-5395.
And the purpose of this?
They have no plans, they just want to rezone it to business.
Just want to rezone it? Okay. All right. Anyone representing Boynton LLC wish to speak to this matter before we go to public hearing? All right, if not, public hearing is now open to consider this application from Boynton LLC. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, come forward. Okay, seeing no one, the public hearing is now closed. What's the pleasure of the board?
District 2.
So move. Application be
Okay.
approved.
All right, motion to approve this application. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is Stephen and Debbie Rhodes, residential R2 to residential R1A.
The Planning Commission had held a public hearing on this application on March 30th, 2023, and it was deferred to the next Planning Commission meeting. So it's an application by Stephen and Debbie Rhodes to rezone from residential R2 to residential R1A. This property identified as county tax number 216000-A-001 and zoned as residential R2 is located on the south side of Highway 717 Epps Fork Road at its intersection with 826 Mill Creek Road. Election District 1, County of Mecklenburg, reference deed book LR-10-774.
Okay, anyone here representing the Rhodes that wishes to speak to this matter for public hearing? If not, the public hearing is now open to consider this application. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, come forward. All right, seeing no one, the public hearing is now closed. Board, what's your pleasure?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion to approve this application. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, we have special exception application permits, Jamaria Coleman.
Application by Jamara Coleman for a special exception permit to allow for a vehicle salvage yard. This property identified as county tax number 143000-08-003 and zoned as agriculture is located on the north side of Highway 738 White House Road and approximately 1 mile west of its intersection with 735 Height Drive. Election District 9, County of Mecklenburg, reference deed book LR-21-2309.
All right, anyone here representing the Colemans wish to speak before public hearing? If not, the public hearing is now open to consider this special exception permit application. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. Sorry, seeing no one, the public hearing is now closed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we deny this application. This particular property has been addressed really over the last few years, being an issue, but not properly meeting all the guidelines necessary to get this special exception, and until this individual can meet those requirements, I think we need to deny it. Motion to deny.
Okay. Let's see, this is unanimously denied by the planning commission. Okay, you've all heard the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny this application, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, this is based on the conditions from the Planning Commission, correct?
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Motion denied. All right, Roy Simmons, firearm safety class.
You have an application by Roy Simmons for a special exception permit to conduct firearm safety classes. This property identified as county tax number 05000-A-53 in zone agricultural is located on the east side of Highway 688 Skipper Road, approximately 1 mile south of its intersection with 831 Butler Farm Road, Election District 2, County of Mecklenburg, reference deed book LR-19-3562.
Okay, anyone here representing Roy Simmons wish to speak before a public hearing?
Hi, I'm Roy Simmons. Nice
Morning.
to meet you all. Thank you for the time. I just want to briefly state that there are more and more new firearms owners in our county, more and more females and minorities that are trying to learn gun safety. So that's the purpose of what I'm doing. I am trained through the NRA, USCCA, and other organizations, and very familiar with proper gun management and range management. So thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. All right, the public hearing is now open to consider this application by Roy Simmons that you've just heard read. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, come forward. I seeing no one, the public hearing is closed. What's the pleasure of the board? That is District 2.
So moved, Mr.
You've been
Chairman.
busy this morning. I motion to approve the application. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next, we have an application from Kevin Graham for boat storage.
Application by Kevin Graham for a special exception permit to allow for boat storage and boat detailing business. This property identified as county tax number 204000-A in zone agriculture located on the south side of Highway 903 and is approximately 1/4 of a mile east of its intersection with Black Ridge Road, Highway 626. Election District 3, County of Mecklenburg, reference D Book B&P 407-657 and Wheel Book WF 23-47.
Hang on just a second, I'm catching up here. Okay, anyone representing Mr. Graham wish to speak to this matter before public hearing?
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Rick Cutler. I work with Point Realty Group, and I'm representing the Grahams, who also own Papa Creek Marina. This property is just up the road from the marina. The businesses adjacent to it is real estate company, construction company, medical office. This property is zoned ag. It's had a conditional use permit in the past for Mr. Rudd, had his auctioneering business and his floral design business there. The Grahams need more space for their inventory of boats and trailers. It is not going to be a public boat storage facility. It will not be heavily lit as the one up the road. This is basically overflow storage for the marina. As their restaurant is getting more popular, parking is an issue. Their employees are parking within their storage lot now, so they need more space to store basically their long-term inventory. But it's not going to be a public facility. It's not going to be heavily lit. And like I said, it's not a rezoning. It's just a conditional use permit to take the place of the one that's already there.
Is this on the corner of Marshtown Road?
No,
No.
it's around the corner. It's towards Shady
It's
Shack
Charles
on the right.
Rudd's.
Is it on the same side of the road as the marina?
No, it's right beside Dr. Bailey's office almost. It's just down from Dr. Bailey's office.
There's a house and a garage there now, an old vehicle.
Be Mr. Rhodes.
Yeah,
There's an old trailer there now. There's those 3 section carport where he had cars stored. All of that the old trailer will be removed. In my opinion, it'll be better than it is now. They plan to remodel the house. And the reason they went with a conditional use permit was commercial zoning does not allow residential use, and they want to be able to use the house for residential, maybe employee housing, I don't know. But that's the reason, and plus it was already a conditional use permit in place.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, sir. All right, the public hearing is now open to consider this application from Kevin Graham for boat storage. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Alicia Clary. My address is 184 Wagon Drive, Bracy. Mr. Cutler spoke on behalf of Mr. Graham at the Planning Commission meeting. Mr. Cutler said that this is not a business, yet the letter I received from the county clearly states a boat storage and boat detailing business. I voiced my disapproval of the special exemption permit in the letter that you have in your records and at the Planning Commission meeting. My concerns included light pollution, noise, safety entering and exiting Highway 903, lack of privacy for me and my family, my property value, and runoff of detailing chemicals. My property is directly behind the property in question, and only a white picket fence separates us. I do not want a boat storage facility adjoining my residence. I do not want to look out my window and see a sea of boats and a chain link fence. The Planning Commission passed this permit on the following stipulations: no added lights, no detailing of boats, professionals determine the best placement of a driveway, screening between our properties and this one. My question is, if this special exemption permit is approved by you today, what keeps Mr. Graham from getting more special permits to add bright unbearable lights, to add boat detailing, to add storing customers' boats in addition to the already proposed overflow of Mr. Graham's new boats for his business? Who do I call if I see more lights go up or that first boat being detailed? I love my forever home and built it in this location due to the rural residential area it is in. I bought my property adjoining agricultural land with a residence on it. It needs to remain a residence. Residences do not usually include chain link fences and boats. Please don't force me to sell my home because it no longer provides for me the atmosphere that feels like home. Not to mention, it would be difficult to sell my home because who would want to move into a subdivision, Joyceville, and have boats and a chain link fence across their whole backyard? Ask yourself, would you want this in your backyard? Once again, my name is Alicia Clary. I am a citizen of Mecklenburg County, and I ask you to protect me and my neighbors, some of whom could not be here at this meeting due to work. Please do not approve this special permit, as it will open the door for more petitions by Mr. Graham for additions to this special permit in the future. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Richard Buchowski. I live at 171 Wagon Drive, which is just down below this property. I've lived there since 2006. During a period in around 2010 and on, while I can see the property from my house, I'm not adjacent to it, okay? But I also served on the Joyceville Board, HOA, and we had a constant problem with runoff. Running down into it's like a 25-foot drop from this property down to the stream that feeds into Lake Gaston. Any chemicals up there, you're asking for trouble. And not only that, it is right in the middle of homes. And I'm sure none of y'all would like this put in your backyard. And we don't either. We urge denial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Morning.
Members of the board and county staff. My name is Wally Secco. I live at 1031 Alexander Drive, Bracy, Virginia. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you this morning. I am representing the Joyceville Board of Directors, of which I am a member. As this situation evolved over the last few weeks, the Board of Directors thought it was proper for us to take a position to protect the rights of our citizens. Joyceville is a community of over 100 properties in Mecklenburg County. The tax exceeds probably $40 million a year. This is according to your GIS maps. The homes surrounding this proposed open boat storage facility values are about $1.3 million. This does not include the homes on the other side of 903 in the Tanglewood community. The proposed property is seeking to be changed. The value is $151,000 on your GIS maps. We know this does not necessarily represent the sales cost value. Mr. Pete Rudd developed both communities. He created Joyceville to be a somewhat upscale community. The associations worked hard to maintain the original concept Mr. Rudd had for the community. People who move to our community always do for several reasons. It's quiet, it's scenic, it's well kept. Even in the matter of mixed homes, they're all well maintained. So the question is, why is this area necessary? I heard no compelling reasons from Mr. Cutler as to why this piece of property needs to be part of the marina across Poplar Creek. The Rudd home has been there for decades. Mr. Rudd's always maintained his property well. We understand there's a trailer there that's been there since I moved there 20-some years ago. The board and neighbors never had any issues with this property other than some runoff from extreme rains. So why is this change necessary? Why not a facility up the street where you already have a boat facility? I checked the GIS maps. That facility is owned by Poplar Point LLC. So is the adjoining lot at 192, 9260 and 9150 Highway 903. Also, part of the property at the marina in Brunswick County is owned by Poplar Creek LLC. So there's a difference between business, a law office, a real estate office, and a doctor's office, and an open-air storage facility. The only thing that would be you could build there worse would be a solar farm. We would like for you to abide by the citizens that live there and have added value to our community and to the county, and do not devalue their property by this hodgepodge approach of special exemptions. Thank you. I see my red light is there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir. Anyone else?
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Dora Smith. I was at the last meeting too, and I've done a little research. So to start, home ownership is one of the most important, if not the most important, means available to U.S. families for accumulation of wealth. Homeowners seek to protect their investments. Decisions that positively or negatively affect residential values should be taken seriously. It's a quote that I borrowed. There are a lot of unknowns for adjacent property owners, and we have questions on this proposal. How will this special variance change over the coming years? What will that do to our property values? Will we have difficulty when selling our homes? How will it change and/or affect our daily lives? Will neighbors want to move out due to the negative spillover it causes us? Will they be able to afford to move? In the first meeting, we were told there would be no lights to illuminate our yards, and there would be a fence screen to protect our livelihood and the future dynamics of the neighborhood. But how long before all that changes? These homeowners live here full-time and are not seasonal residents, as you typically see at the lake. As law-abiding citizens, taxpayers, and property owners directly impacted from this change or this proposal, we ask, would you want to live beside this proposed use property? Please think about us. Online, I found some information here of what we can expect. More traffic, noise, crime, and aesthetic pollution are more likely to be magnified. Also, how our property values will be affected based on the appearance and upkeep of the property. What else will it bring to our neighborhood that is undesirable? I also found some references to the next door phenomenon, where nearby properties within 1,500 feet are negatively impacted the most. Some of the research showed within a quarter mile. But some states even have a mitigation fund to be used toward the mitigation of the net negative impact of the development that occurs within the next 2 miles of its border. This is based on future changes in growth to use of this property. Some studies show property values are affected within a quarter mile, as I said. We don't know yet how it will affect our livelihoods and our families. In any event, the decisions you make today will affect and change other people's lives, mostly ours and our neighbors, likely negatively. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning, and thank
Good
you
morning.
for your time and your consideration today. I'm Joanne Painter. I am the owner of that said property, along with my son, Michael Smith. And I just wanted to make note that this property does join commercial property. That goes, my understanding, from 903 all the way. So it's not just this property being considered commercial that would be joining Joyceville. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is there an erosion problem, Mr. Henry?
It's all grass. I mean, nobody's disturbing the land, so they don't have to do a plan.
So they won't have to disturb
I
any,
got a few questions for him.
they won't have to disturb any land or,
But if he does, he's gonna have to provide a EMS plan and possibly some water that he uses, depending on what you disturb.
I mean, is he aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hendrick, also, this land is zoned to agriculture now, correct?
Correct.
So they could put livestock there
Yes,
now
sir.
if they chose to.
Yes.
Okay. So he does not have an ENS plan in place?
He wouldn't have to do one unless he's gonna disturb the property. Right now, it's just open field.
How about a plan as far as how he would have to be required to lay out the landscaping or the fencing to block view? Has he provided any type of layout to?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
But that could be one. I mean, we've got in the planning commission recommend it to be screened, and I can require him to submit a landscaping plan as one of the conditions.
All right. Well, what I will do then, if you're through with the public hearing.
Well, I got another question.
Okay,
got a
that's fine. Go ahead. Because I was going.
Yeah, my question was, what type of screening? Is it just gonna be a chain link fence? Because that ain't much screening.
No, he would have to plant some kind of vegetation to screen.
Okay.
Also, I think one of the ladies had mentioned that what's going to happen later on if he starts putting more lights and starts washing boats. Would you direct the answer to her of what would happen?
One of the conditions the planning commission put would be no lighting and no boat detailing.
Yep.
Now, if he decides to make any other changes, he'd have to resubmit another special exception permit to go before the planning commission and the board for approval.
Right.
It's not automatic.
Yeah, I think you need to hear that.
All right. Any more questions, Mr. Henry? All right. So anyone else need to speak at this time? If not, the public hearing is now closed concerning the application from Kevin Graham. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we send this back to the planning commission until such time as he can submit a plan as to how this is gonna be laid out and the fencing and the privacy and stuff like that before, I think we can address it fully.
Okay, all right.
Sounds reasonable.
Y'all have heard that motion. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we will send that back.
Okay.
I got another one. Oh, yeah. We had two 2232s presented for cell towers. One is located off of 49 Horseshoe Road and New Hope Road. The Planning Commission recommended approval. The other was a cell tower location on Highway 47, about 5 miles west of Chase City, and that was also recommended for approval.
Okay.
If you all want to review those, that is up to you all to do that, or you can let that pass as they will then be after 30 days considered approved. 2232.
I think if we can get cell towers, we need to.
So you're saying that we don't need to take any action?
Take any action unless you wanted to review with the planning commission.
Okay.
If you're happy with more cell towers, then better service. Just
Is that consensus of the board that we do that?
Definitely.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
You want more if you'll wait.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like our next item is a public hearing concerning the VDOT 6-year plan. So, Mr. Carter, how are we going to address that?
If you want me to, Kevin, do you won't have anything to say? You want me to? Okay. Somehow I saw that one coming, just like the train. We did have additional funding this year for about 5.5 miles worth of road funding. We did go back and forth between the highest road count and the roads that were left on the old 2005 plan. We were able to include all of those except for the last one. So we did add several items to that. And I think we've used up all the funding. Last year, we were unable to add any roads to the system because we had to reallocate existing funding because it got slowed up by basically the budget process. So you have those new additional roads that have been added. Do you have any questions on those?
Any question? All right. Mr. Frank, do you have any comments?
No, we are really fortunate, I think, to have been able to do as many roads as we have. I mean, I've been on this committee for 12 years, and I think the first 8, we did 1 or 2 roads, but it's moved along. I mean, I think if you live on a dirt road, it's hard to be patient, but even this plan here, the 6-year plan, I mean, some of these projects won't be until 2029. So, it's still down the road, but it's like, say, if you live on a dirt road, it's hard to have that much patience, but we are moving a lot faster than we have.
And we have in the past, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Have there any roads been recently approved and then denied?
What do you mean, sir?
I mean, it was approved to pay and then it got denied. Or
Oh, yes, sir. We've had several that were back in the plan back in 2005 that no longer meet road count.
Okay.
It used to be, at that point in time, VDOT would increase the road to a 50-foot right-of-way. I think the last one we did was Dairy Farm Road, probably under that old system. They then went out and widened it, straightened it, everything else. We used to have to give back land on both sides of the road. After 2005 and the recession, they went to rural rustic and then went to a 50 road count. Prior to that, there was not a road count amount that was in there. So we had some roads that had qualified for the 2005 plan that have been dropped because they no longer meet the new requirements.
None recently.
Yes, a couple. We had one last year that got dropped. I don't think we had one this year, but there have been several that do not meet the 50 road count, and we can't change that. So that's the requirements to be done. And you actually, when you look at your what we sent y'all earlier this year, you have a number of roads that do not meet the 50 road count. Now, as some of those they were, last had the road count done on 2016 and 2019. The ones on 2016 are getting ready to come up this year, hopefully. So we'll get new road counts. But VDOT only does it every 3 or 4 years. Because they have to do every road in the state of Virginia. So it's a percentage done every year.
Okay.
And we did add Twin Cedar Road, Wilson, Newton Road, Lambert Road, Henrico Road, and Lux Circle. So.
All right.
I believe the other issue we're dealing with too is, 6-7 years ago, it was about $125,000 per mile. Now it's right at 200. So the money don't go quite as far either.
Right.
That's on everything.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think like I said, we've done a lot in the past few years. But Mr. Branker was right. We didn't do a road for at least 10 years there, 2015, 2016. I don't think we added a road in the system that was paved. And now we've been able to do a number of them.
All right. Okay. All right, very good. At this time, we will open the public hearing to consider the VDOT 6-year plan. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Sidney Mallory Jr., and I'm here representing my father, Sidney Mallory, because he was unable to make it. He lived at 124 Fenningwood Road, and he's been trying to get that road paved for over 40 years, and he's 88 now. And he even went as far to start a petition with over 2,000 signatures, and nothing still has been done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Keaton. I live at 1000 Fenningwood Road in Shea City, and I'm always calling to get that road paved. I really believe it's cheaper to pave it than constantly put the chemicals on it to lower the dust. The dust's so bad, I can't sit on my front porch. And rocks and damage to my car, and it's just, I have lung disease. And I would love to have that road paved. I just think it'd be much cheaper than adding rocks. When it rains, all the rocks washes off. And I call them, please keep the dust down to put the chemicals on the road. I just think it'd be more beautiful. And I've been living there almost 3 years now. I come from Maryland. So I just love the other roads that's paved. I think it would benefit everyone. And dust all day. I can even make a video about the dust you can't see. But please consider. Or they did once told me I was on a 5-year plan, but they dropped Fenningwood Road. Okay. I just love to have that road paved. My grandmother, Annie Bell Jeffers, she lived at 996. She's deceased also. And she requested probably 50 years, 60 years ago. I want to know what's the criteria to be on that list? Mm-hmm. What is the criteria? Is it based on income on that lane, or?
Yeah. All right, Wayne, you want to?
Currently, it's based on road count. Okay. Currently, as of the 2019 road count, you only hit 30 vehicles per day.
They told me we did.
I'm looking at the latest road count.
Yeah, because I'm constantly calling.
Based on this one you said. Is that been updated?
Well, someone told me it did.
That is the old data.
That's old.
I have not seen the new data, but the road has been recounted.
It's been.
From what I can understand, possibly the end out on 47 may be higher. So I have not seen that count yet.
But the last I have.
Yeah, I was told that we did qualify.
All right.
But currently, on what we have right now, the data is just.
Thank you, Ryan.
Maybe next year we'll new data.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, see? Seeing no one, the public hearing is now closed concerning the VDOT 6-year plan. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Franklin? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept this 6-year plan that we have been presented.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the 6-year plan resolution. Any further discussion?
Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. All right, this brings us to our public comments session. Anyone signed up, Mr. Carter?
I have a lot, but I think that many of them already spoken. We have some that might have already spoken in the 6-year plans. Let me take a look. Alicia Clary, she's, was on the rezoning. Joanne Painter was on the rezoning. Cynthia Keaton just spoke. Sidney Mallory just spoke. Wally Sanko has spoke. Richard Buckley has spoke. George Smith has spoke. Henry. Sir? Thank you. I didn't want to tell you about your name. You said you wanted to speak on a road?
Yes, sir.
A 6-year plan, because we just had a public hearing.
Okay, well, okay. We have a whole group of people here from our neighborhood, and just, I think our last road count, we've been here now 6 years, and I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, so obviously with the amount of traffic that we get, more and more people moved into that area, and, we got great neighbors. We have a lot of homes right off the road itself, and they're within 30 yards off the road. We're very considerate of our neighbors, all of us, trying to stay 15, 20 miles an hour on that. Even with that, we have a lot of problems with this coming out, especially obviously with the drive like last 2 weeks, and then it started to pop back up. So I think, can we show a hand how many people here? So I don't know if that's right.
What road was that, Wayne?
So just, we just.
It's got a 90 road count. It'll probably be in the next plan, because
Okay.
we're about that road count number is 90 is where we're hitting at now.
Okay.
So y'all will probably be in next year's additions.
Okay.
We only have so much roads and we're going back
I
and
can
forth.
realize that, so.
Is that it?
I have that one, Elizabeth Pittman, also I guess it's on that road. Mary Simmons on Skipworth Road. And do I have a second page?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
My name is Elizabeth Pittman. I live at 356 George W. Jones Lane. That road is adjoined to Hunter Alexander Road. That's the only way in, and exits from there. We have a total of 14 houses on that road. I have lived there all my life. Now, to say this, to let you know that I've been there, I was born and raised there. Now, as they got the road, they said 10 years ago that we would be on that list. Now, I called in last month, which was last month. I spoke to some from the VDOT. I spoke to from the committee, which was the council committee, I think it was. And I asked them, and they were telling me that in 2024, we are on that list for the road to be asked for. So I'm looking forward to that 2024 to get it done. We have, as one of the person just came, was here, she just said that the dust, this is a long road, believe it or not. That dust on there is unbelievable. We tried everything to keep it minimal because we would go slow, as Henry was saying. We go slow with that. But that doesn't help. And as far as I requested that they do the whole road when they did the dust reduction, they did it in parts. You know, if you have a house there and you have a house here, they go there, they leave this blank in between. The dust is going to follow you. You know, you're riding the road. You're not flying, so you're doing a great thing trying to, but that hasn't happened. Now, we have a total of 14 houses on compared to that road. 7 houses on George W. Jones Lane. That's 7 houses that has to use that road, exit in and out. There's 1 from Cotton Creek. There's 1, and then there's 6 roads on Hunter Alexander Lane. That makes a total of 14 houses right now. I see the light just came on, but I'm gonna finish this in a second. 14 houses on this house. What we're requesting is only for 2024, have it asphalt, have it black tar, whatever you want to call it. We need that done. In the meantime, we need a little more spray on that road to hold down the dust because it's ridiculous. I mean, we do have sick people on. I mean, we're not young anymore. We're old people, and they all have that problem of illness. So, I mean, with the dust down, maybe that might be able to help. If you black tar, that would be even better. I would appreciate that. I think we all would appreciate that if you would be able to black tar this road for us, 2024.
It's not on the list for 2024, man.
Well, I was told when I called it was on the list.
It's the list, and it's not on there. It's not on the list at all. Like I said, it would probably be next year, because the road count 90, it's gonna be one of the next roads to go on to it.
So for the next, you mean we got? I waited already. I know see the light jumping there. I got to get out of the way. But okay. So
Which one's supposed to stop talking?
I did hear that.
So what would happen next year, 2024, hopefully would be added to the 6-year plan, which would then make it come
But
in.
I've been there forever. I mean, it's like we wait. Not just me. I mean, now that we're adding more houses to that road, we're looking forward to at least some relief. We pay a lot of tax dollars. I mean,
The funding for
those
this is
14
controlled
houses.
by VDOT, not by the county.
Well, I understand we're still paying tax dollars, so I don't know where the money is going, but I know we're paying tax dollars. I think we deserve something for our tax dollar. I do, but I don't know about anybody else, because they don't live there. We live there. We're having a problem. We're struggling with trying to keep it down.
I think we have over 150 miles of dirt roads still in the county.
I understand that, but I've been on that list for a long. We've been on that list for a long time.
No, ma'am, I've actually got the list of 2005, you're not on it.
Well, no, well, and now they told me this time. They told me I was on the list for 2024. That's why I'm here.
No, ma'am.
Somebody told me that. I'll get the name when I'll look it up when I get home. The name of the person I spoke to. But I thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Do something for us.
Thank you.
Dust reduction too in there.
That it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, Kevin, VDOT. Where's Kevin?
We're gonna identify him now.
That's him. He's the one.
Tag you in, bud.
That's right. I'll talk to you outside.
The room will be empty once he walks out.
You can run, but you can't hide, Kevin.
Hey.
Thanks.
Good morning.
You got to shave that mustache so they won't recognize you.
Wear sunglasses and a hat.
Yeah, I need the glasses and the hat, so. Let me go on my right page, excuse me. All right, y'all should have got our board, our monthly report in your board package. A couple of things I want to hit on. Primary mowing is scheduled to start May 15th, so next week. Secondary mowing will start in June. We will be addressing safety mowing issues, intersections, curves, and stuff as needed before the contractor start on the secondary. Route 712 bridge is closed. That is still on schedule to get reopened by July 5th. Route 92 bridge is still down to one lane. That is on schedule to open up in August of this year. Don't know if y'all noticed it or not, but the Route 58, Route 4 camera is up. That's a camera with the weather station. It is not online yet. Usually they've run them for 30, 60 days, make sure all the glitches are out of them before they turn them on to the public. Once it's turned on, anybody will be able to access the camera and look on the Virginia 511 system up there. I think that's all I've got, unless y'all have got some questions for me.
Let me go ahead. Okay. Kevin, the people that spoke this morning, I know that talking about the dust and that kind of thing, I'm sure y'all probably can, put a short-term help them out on,
yes,
on those
sir.
things? Because
Yes,
I know that's happened in the past, and if they've got, that kind of situation, it would help greatly, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Typically, our dust control is in front of houses, on these dirt roads and stuff. I will take a look at her road and see
Thank
what
you.
we got. If we got we got continuous houses, we can probably make a little different arrangements and treat it a little bit better. So
Is that a gravel, I guess you don't put it on till the winter time, do you?
no, spring, this time of year.
Oh,
Yeah, when the dust. We don't put it on the winter time because it draws moisture, and a lot of times it will make mud
Right.
instead of,
Okay.
and that's the reason why a lot of times if somebody calls in about dust control or dust complaint in the wintertime in December or January, we try to let Mother Nature handle it, because if we put that in on it can make a mud hole.
Yeah, I know that in summertime, the dust, especially in July, August, can be a real problem, so.
Yeah, we'll address that. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Do you do all 150 miles?
Sir?
That sounds like a big, in July, or whatever time of the year, do you do all 150 miles of dirt roads?
Yes, sir. In front of houses, yes, sir. They make their runs, and they'll treat usually about twice a year with the dust control in front of houses and stuff. And then if we do have more issues or complaints, we'll go out and address them again. A lot of it just depends on what kind of season we got, weather, water, rain coming and stuff.
What kind of chemical do they use on that?
This is calcium chloride is what's being used.
Okay. How does rainfall affect that? If you put it down and it rains 2 days later, is it
No,
gone?
it soaks in. It stays put. It stays put.
What happened to the good old days when we could put down burnt motor oil, huh?
All right,
Kevin,
It's all about recycling.
Kevin, I was going to ask you on the
That's right.
paving on the interstate, when are they going to be through with that? Because I know the other day when they had to send folks southbound all the way to Bracy to turn around to come back northbound, I think it was some upset folks.
We'll have, hopefully very soon, so.
Okay. And I will ask you too, when they do a detour like that, do they notify the 911 center?
They should be not.
Okay, because
notified.
I just want to make sure, because if an emergency services, an ambulance or something was getting on there thinking they could go northbound and they couldn't, and they were going to have to go, a ways down the road, turn around, come back, it would affect them.
The 911 center is on their call list to be notified.
Very good. Hopefully they'll finish it soon.
Yes, sir.
Kevin, I know that, like this year, pretty mild, no snow removal pretty much. Does that, I know it's probably allotted a lot of money to have that snow removed, but does any of that money stay in the county if it's not used?
Some of it does come back to us. We did get a little bit of money back. They disperse the money out. So if Northern Virginia or up in the mountains, if they have a hard winter or something, some of our money will drift that way to cover some of their expenses and overages and stuff. And we, Southside Virginia, we was recipients of that the year of the ice storm. We had a lot of money from Nova and the mountains come to help us clean up, to pay the cleanups there. So it kind of gets moved around throughout the state as needed.
I know y'all getting ready to cut both your people and the contractors. Please make them cognizant to try and miss the 911 signs as much as possible. Wish y'all can, please.
Yes, sir.
We have to fix all those up.
Oh, that's secondary crews. Contract crews.
Contract crew on secondaries, yes, sir. We will be mowing the primaries.
I just think you probably ought to have a good talking to them about all this fiber, all the fibers now installed. It hadn't been in the past. You got all these risers and boxes and it's a lot of people that depend directly on that internet.
Yes, sir.
They haven't had to do that in the past, so you should have a good talking to them.
Yes, sir. We will.
But I know down my way, when they started, the subcontractors, they have somebody from VDOT that follows them to make sure that they cut these areas and careful, especially the telephone boxes and all this stuff.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir. We send a monitor out with them to monitor them. Of course, we don't, if they cut on weekends, we don't send monitors on weekends, but we send them back out Monday to ride back around and see what they've done.
Okay. Any other questions? Kevin, thank you.
All right, thank y'all. Have a good one. Thank you, Wayne.
Have fun.
Them people still wait for you back there.
I have a question, but I didn't put my name on the list because I didn't think My name is Robin Jeffrey. I live on 2907 Middle Springs Road. These are my neighbors, and they have a good concern. I was wondering, what is the budget for the VDOT? And between VDOT and the county budget, how is it allocated? You know, to only have only 5 houses named and 5 roads to be paid. I mean, we should have much more. Isn't Mecklenburg one of the richest county?
Well, ma'am, let me stop you. Let me stop you right there. What I would like for you to do, if you would, is get with VDOT and get them to answer those questions, because these are all questions for VDOT, not for us, because we don't control that budget. That's a state budget, not a county budget.
Okay, so the county doesn't put any money in?
No, ma'am.
At all?
No, ma'am.
Okay, because it's something wrong with the picture.
Right. Right.
Something's missing out the puzzle.
Thank you. We've got David Lipscomb here this morning to bring us up to date on the Empower Broadband. David, welcome.
Good morning. Again, my name is Dave Lipscomb. I'm with Mecklenburg Electric Cooperative and Empower Broadband. So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, it's good to be with you all. Staff, it's good to be with you all to give you an update on some other infrastructure improvements that are going on across the county. So, if you look at this picture here, you'll see residents of the county here. You'll see a couple of folks there from just around Chase City. You'll see folks around Bracy as well. So Empower is making a difference. As Sterling mentioned earlier, there's lots of fiber going across Mecklenburg County. So let's take a little bit a look about where it is, where it's going. If you'll look at this map, this is a map that shows all of the eligible locations that are qualified for the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative application that we made in 2022 and it was approved. We worked with the Southside Planning District Commission. Each one of those addresses, there are 14,634 addresses that were eligible. We received funding, and that moved that $154 million total project forward. $69 million of that came through VOTI as a joint application between Mecklenburg, Halifax, the southern portion of Charlotte, and the southern portion of Brunswick. But you can see each of those colors represent a different year. So the green represents phase 1, year 1, which we're in now. We're coming to an end of that. So we are working in those areas. There's a portion just between the county line of, I think, let's see if I can, okay, I'm not able to use a laser here, but just along the southern portion of the line there with Charlotte County and Mecklenburg County, we were working in there. You see the green dots there. Our teams are working there now. You also see some down around the Palmer Springs area that is for this year. And then the blue, of course, the red is phase 2, and we're beginning to do some pre-work for that, some engineering work. And phase 3, of course, is year 3. Now, a lot of that area, year 3, you can see shows up around the South Hill area, and we're moving toward that. A lot of that, particularly, will be serviced by Dominion Energy, as we have you guys will remember we have an MOU with them to get some of that done. The black shows those areas where fiber is already currently built, and it is folks there are already eligible. So that gives you a good idea of where we are. We'll go look at a little closer map here. Probably should have moved over that a little quicker, but you guys can see how where we're working now around Chase City, just south of Chase City, and in the west of Chase City a little bit, is an area that is for this year down around Palmer Springs. We do have a crew that is working down in the far portion of Boynton, down on the Carolina-Virginia line there. We are working in the Marymount subdivision, then we'll move west to there across Route 1 and move into that. So that is a part of the project that we're working on. And then as you can see, phase 2 predominantly in the Clarksville area is year 2. So we'll begin to make some work in those areas toward engineering and design. Now, if you take a look at where is fiber already, where are services being provided already, each of those yellow houses represents a house that is being served, or it is in deep construction, pretty far along in construction and to be served very quickly. But there are 2,066 houses in Mecklenburg County that have high-speed fiber internet available, fiber-fed internet available to those homes. So you think about the number of citizens that is making a difference. And we are connecting them every day. Now, one of the large areas that you can see right around between Boynton and Baskerville, that area that goes around those two communities and then closer towards South Hill, that's a new area we've opened up along Baskerville Road, along Landfill Road. We're working in those areas. Folks are being hooked up. There's a number of them that are still to be hooked up, but that's a big area that we're working in right now. So there are, just to explain a little bit further, when the cooperative was working in that area doing some line upgrades, we were able to put fiber in there as well. So we have contractors that are working for Empower that are conducting the work. Well, you'll see communities, and I have a logo in just a second, a company called Magellan. Magellan is our engineering design team. There are engineers that are monitoring the project for us, and then you'll see another company called National On Demand. National On Demand is actually the folks that go out, the contractor that does the digging and the boring and that sort of thing. So if you see those logos, you'll know that they are working. But 2,066 is where we are today, and it keeps growing. Now, just to tell you a little bit further about overall how Empower is growing to date, this past month, we billed 4,040 accounts. So we just reached over that 4,000 mark. So we're really excited to see. It took 6 months to come from 3,000 to 4,000. So it continues to move across Southside Virginia. Now, when folks need to sign up or want to sign up, they can go to our website, empowermec.net, and I think we have talked about this in the past, and you can go check availability. You can click check availability, and then you can go here. This page comes up, and folks can key in their address, and it'll show them if their address is eligible or not. But if you look at this map, those folks who live in those yellow highlighted areas, those are the areas that are open for application currently today. So you can see all of those folks in that Baskerville area between South Hill and Boynton, you can see that's highlighted. But when folks go to sign up, that's what they see. And this is how they're able to go check in and sign up. Now, if they sign up, there are two things that go on here. You can sign up with your application and go through the full process. But if you're in an area that we haven't built to yet, you can also just complete your interest. You can register your interest, and then when we have got it opened up to build construction, we'll send you an email and say, hey, it's time to go in and do your application. So it's a two-step process, and it helps folks to recognize and realize what's going on. Now, how many folks are still waiting to be hooked up? Are there folks that are in the queue? Yes, sir.
I'm waiting to be hooked up.
Okay. Well, then we'll get you on the list. If you're not already there, Mr. Hargrove.
You're on the 6-year plan.
2026.
He's on a 3-year plan.
Okay. Come back in 15 years and reapply.
Right now, we are working. The VADI application that's out there now is a 3-year plan, and we're in year 1 now, so we've got about 2.5 years left. So we are making some progress that we didn't have progress before. But this application shows, or this map shows the applications that are basically in the queue, areas that are actively being connected, and you can see where they're located. You can see there are a number of folks along Highway 903, just down in that Bracey area. You can see the concentration of applications there. You see, we've opened up another area along Marengo Road, Old St. Tammany Road, around the Bracey. You can see there are a few applications that are coming in there. That's a new area we've opened up as well. But look at all the folks that are in that general between Boynton and Baskerville area. There are lots of folks, applications that we have there, and folks are being hooked up. So you can see there are 336 applications. So not only are there 2,066 folks that are hooked up, there are 336 that are in the queue and to be hooked up in the next couple of months.
I was going to ask you, how long does it normally take to get to these applications?
Well, Tom, one of the things that we try to do is we want folks to hold off and and we set it up so that the applications are about 8 weeks. 8 to 12 weeks is typically where we see it. But what happens is when we send a crew out there to put a line in, the main line, they'd say, oh my goodness, you're here. I want to sign up. I want to make sure you have my application today. I recognize it's going to be a little bit. And then when we do that, we'll tell folks, hey, look, you'll be putting your application in early, but typically what we try to do is we try to get to that 8 to 12 week mark and do that. But we'll tell folks if they are hooking up early, and folks really do. Rural folks here in Southside, they want to hook up, so they want to know their names on the list. Mm-hmm. And so we do accommodate that, but in those cases, we are telling them. So
The north of Bluestone Creek, I noticed that it had green dots on it on the original map that you pulled up. That's phase 1 or whatever.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
And so what would be the time frame on that?
Charles, that is something we're working on now. So I would say we're looking in that. Let me go back to that one. There are actually some crews that have been working in that area. So you're speaking about like a 49 going back.
Well, right. Well, actually,
I say 49, but it's
maybe it's
15.
red. It's north of Bluestone Creek up to Red Oak.
Right.
That
We
section.
So that is green. We're doing some work in those areas now. So I would say, that is in the last part of this year. So,
okay.
That's something.
I didn't know whether it was 1 year out or you were already
it's
there.
actually in the current plan. It's in this phase 1 year that we're in. So the main line is to be installed. The target date for that is to be installed by July timeframe, and then once we get that done, we'll be able to start working on the drops and then doing the home installs. I would think that is, as we look at it, that's probably maybe a fall time frame is where we might be looking at there. Of course, we're always trying to work to keep it going and keep it moving, but crews are working along Highway 49 and even going back on Triton Ridge Road in that zone that we have. So it is, it's in the near term. It's in the current phase.
The section from intersection with 15 to the bridge to Triton Ridge, say that section right there, 49.
It's actually coming down. Let's see. We have to look at our map back up here. I tell you what, we can take a look a little further. They're working actually from basically where, the salvage yard used to be right there and turning on Triton Ridge Road and going back toward 15. They're working along through that road as we speak. Now, if you go down a little bit closer to Chase City, they're actually working in that area too. So putting some underground. So if you're on 49, you'll see those crews working. Now
But it's 1.7 miles from Lee's store, basically, to the water, to Bluestone Creek when it goes around.
Right. They are turning right there at Triton Ridge Road. So we can talk a little bit, I'll catch up with you and we can do a deeper dive there. Yes, Ms. Lundy.
Theater Road off of 58 near South Hill is.
We'd have to look at that one, Ms. Lundy. I'll do that and I will.
There's 2 people down there that come from out of state that have these $1 million homes. Want to know, keep bugging me when.
I will go back and look to see if it's a part of this. If it's a part of this program project, I will take a look and I will. I'll reach out to you.
Okay, thank you.
And we can have that further conversation.
Okay.
And of course, that's one of the things that you guys can recognize. This is really location and address specific. So if there's a specific address and we have to dig and drill into it and take a look at it. All right, so you can see where folks are. You can see where we have applications open. And of course, not only, but you see how the connections are working between counties, which really helps out because we may be building just over the county line and it makes it easier to get to somebody else. So applications. Now, Mr. Hargrove, I put this slide in because I knew this is something that would be of some interest to you.
Okay.
You will notice that we have a substation in Clarksville And we have constructed fiber from that Clarksville substation, which is just off of Highway 15. And going from there, it's not too far from the airport. You guys probably know where it is. Mr. Jones, you probably do too. Not too far from the hardware store. But we have built fiber from that substation down Highway 15 to the bridge at Longwood, at the campground there. And you can see the fiber, you can see it on the map, it goes down to that point. We've got to, of course, have it connected, go across the bridge, so that's one of the next steps we'll do. Then we go down 15 and turn on Townsville Road and go down to Island Creek Dam. Island Creek Dam, we have to cross the fiber there, but you can see we're connecting the substation. Now this area is a year 2 project, but we're getting the mainline fiber to get it connected to that community. So that work is going on down in that area as well.
Yeah, I saw that they've gone as far as Ivy Hill. So
And-
they stopped that
right.
presently,
So we're connecting, getting the lines to have things ready for next year and building further off that. Once we get that main line in, then we can build out further. The other thing too is when we put the main line in, we'll go to the substation. The substation will actually be where the equipment, the electronics are held such that we can distribute it from that location. And but we have got those fibers in place, and that gives us a backbone to do what we need to do. Now, one of the things that we have talked about is, and this goes back to some of the questions we had just a little bit earlier, if you look at Mecklenburg County, what phases, what years are we looking at? This map shows those mainline zones. So Charlie, if you look there, the section 1.4 that we were just talking about, so that means that is year 1, phase 1, project 4. So that's an area we're working on now. Then if you can also see, if you look across, that 1.4 also goes into Charlotte County. It's very faint, but you can see how that goes over. So that area, that whole area is one that's under construction now. You can see 2.4 will be year 2, pretty much in the central part of the county. 2.3 at Clarksville, which will, in July, we'll enter into year 2. 1.3 is year 1, project 3 around Palmer Springs and that area. So we are working in that area as well. And then once we get closer to around that South Hill area, we'll be in year 3, project 3. Now we have divided some of that up with work that we're doing now because of some electric line work that was going on in there to get that a little ahead. But you can see those are the years that we are working. Now this is a kind of a busy map, but what it does is it breaks down those yearly zones that we were just looking at, and it breaks it down into what we call a fiber deployment hub, an FDH. So an FDH contains 32 people. One fiber will serve 32 people. So each of those little blocks represents the service area that would be covered by one fiber. Now the block color that we're looking for is that construction yellow. So you see that construction yellow, that means that's an area where we are currently working or where it is slated, everything's done, all the permitting's done, and it's ready for permitting. So you can see along, as we mentioned, coming down Highway 49 from Chase City, you can see the yellow blocks that are there. Then you can see how they also go to the west and go toward Red Oak on 15. So that gives you probably a little better image of what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, if we go down a little further, you can see that in some of those areas we were just talking about, how they are pink blocks in that same area. So the pink blocks represent where staking is going on. So that's pretty far down in the construction phase. And then you see some that are a lighter blue, and those are the permitting phase. So you can see that whole zone there in 1.4 in the southern portion of that, a lot of activity is going on to get that moved forward. All right. So let's talk about just a couple of other things in mainline construction. As I mentioned to you before, Magellan is the company who is our design engineer, who is our project engineer. That is their logo. You'll see their trucks out in the community doing some work. They actually are monitoring and managing the project, so you'll see that on trucks. You'll also see, if you look just above that, National On Demand. You can see that logo. You'll see those trucks across the community, and they are the contractors who are putting in the underground facilities for this portion. And you also see, like in this case, we have a magnetic sign there that says a contractor for Empower Broadband. Now, there are 44 miles, 44.8 miles of fiber approved for construction, and there are 6.1 miles of construction that have been complete. Now, part of that also is the permitting, so we go through VDOT, and VDOT approves all of the, when we work through their right-of-way, they approve that as well. So we're going through that. So there's 44 miles done. Now, we talked about earlier that Dominion is one of the partners in this. We have Dominion at this point has 154 miles scoped in Mecklenburg County. There are 81 miles, 81.4 miles approved, and there are 23.6 miles in construction. Now that's typically going right now from Chase City toward South Hill and from Chase City toward Boynton. So you'll see them. Now I will tell you, I know some of you guys are travel a little bit, maybe perhaps from Clarksville toward South Boston. Dominion's been doing some construction work and some engineering work on Highway 58. So going in that direction. So there are 14.4 miles, 14.2 miles of construction that have been completed by Dominion. Now, once they get that complete, they're building the main line. Then Empower will build the last mile. They'll build from that main line. We'll build the laterals, and we'll build the drops from that main line to the home. So once they get that done, then Empower can pick up and move along. So as you guys can see, there's a lot going on and continues to move along. We are progressing quite well. You know, just thinking about some of the things that we're working through, and one of those is with all of the underground digging. There is a lot of this that's underground as well. Underground and some overhead. Right now, we're doing a lot of underground locates, doing utility locates for other things that are in the ground. And our area has not seen a lot of underground construction in a number of years. So folks have gotten used to being able to have maybe one guy who's doing locates to take care of all of that. Well, that with all of the underground digging that's going on, that's not enough. So we've worked with other providers to, in constant contact with them to add contractors to help with the locates. But we do work through that and work, of course, with those other utilities. So we're not cutting or damaging any other facilities. But that is a challenge for us right now that we're meeting head on, and all the partners and players are working hard to make sure that we can get the service in. So are there any questions that you guys might have? I can go back to another map or. Yes, sir.
David, you said it was 16,000 residents identified. What percentage of those will actually tap into?
We have an estimate that there are like 45% is our estimate. What we call a take rate is what we anticipate.
That's all?
45%, yes, sir. But now one of the things that's typically what you will see. And we have seen some of that. In more rural areas, it takes a little longer for folks to take it. So another part of our effort is to teach folks to say, hey, look, this is what you can do with this tool.
What do you think it'll be in the end? 65, maybe?
I think what we have heard from other cooperatives that are doing this sort of thing, they're 60% is where we think. So it takes.
It seems low to me.
45%. Yes, but it's like you said, it's a long-term project, and we'll move there. So we do think upwards of 60%. One of the things that's interesting, the biggest selling point or the marketing tool that's out there is neighbor talking to neighbor. We'll have an area and we'll get it ready to have it hooked up, and we'll hook up one or two people. That's all that has signed up to receive the service. And 6 weeks later, you'll have a flurry of, 5 or 6 more right around those houses that were hooked up, and they'll hook up. So it's taken a little bit of time, and that's, of course, one of the things that the state has recognized too. They refer to it as digital literacy.
So you've got 4,000 now?
We have 4,000 and 4,040 is what we have hooked
End up
up.
with about 8, so you're about halfway there? If you do the percentages like we talked
I, once, we are anticipating a little more than that, Jim. I think but it'll be 45% is the overall take rate. I think the last number that I looked at across the whole project area, we're thinking somewhere probably around 11 is what we'll end up with across that whole system.
So you'll
Now-
be better than a third.
So, but there are 2 more years left in this project. Now, another thing that we did work with Wayne and the PDC, we made another application to DHCD to add some additional folks in the whole area. The entire second or 2023 application was for 4,800 people, and about 2,000 of those are split between Halifax, Mecklenburg, and a little bit in Charlotte and Brunswick counties. And we hope to hear from those. The last thing that we had heard, we had expected to hear back from those applications in December. We still await an announcement, and they've told us they're thinking in the next few weeks we should know about adding a few extra folks across the service area and even here in Mecklenburg County.
For somebody that goes on your site and it says the service is not available to them, is there, I know still some of the areas are tied up with this RDOF money and CAF2 money and stuff like that. Is there any type of recourse that they have as far as, I know y'all can't go into the areas right now since it's still tied up, but is it any recourse they have? Can they go ahead and sign up with y'all and just, hope down the road that it gets built out?
They can register their interest, Tom. Now, one of the things that we've talked a little bit about, there's another company who has received funding through Connect America funding. And they also pushed forward and received some funding for RDOF, but they turned that back in. So in those cases, as we come close by, then if a fiber goes by our house, and we are looking at that. One of the things that we are working on at this point in time is we've had discussions with our board about how if somebody's within a certain distance, and right now it looks like if folks are within 500 feet of a fiber or a planned fiber, then it may very well be open to those folks. So we're working through those details now. So that will add extra folks as to that list and to that eligibility. So we're hoping to be able to hook up a few more folks there. If you're within 500 feet of a mainline cable, it's a good.
Yeah, because I know there were some concerns that if these companies didn't perform and they didn't turn the areas back over to anybody, that it's possibility some of these funds will have run out by the time, they would be forced to do something basically. And we want to make sure we get as many people served as we can. And I know that's y'all's goal too.
If they sign up, if they'll go in and they can register their interest here for a particular area, and then it helps us to make decisions going forward. Okay. So yes, sir, that would be something we would encourage folks to do.
All right, thank you.
And I've had some of Mr. Hargrove's constituents who've contacted me because they contacted that other provider. And they basically said, we're not sure when we'll ever get down there, working in other areas. So we'll see how this goes. There have been, I know Alex, there was the other day, the FCC is starting to take back and actually penalize some proposed providers because they have not done any work in any certain areas. So they are starting to do some clawbacks on some of that.
And that's good because I think a lot of that money was federal money, and it's going to have to come from the feds to get them to do something about it. Very good.
Okay. All right.
All right. I would encourage, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any questions, feel free to contact me. I'll follow up with a couple of those addresses and comments that you guys had. And but if there's any time you have somebody that has a question particularly, call. And, we'll be glad to look into it, dig into it, and find out when and a little more detail.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, next we have from Dominion Energy, Roxana Demeter.
pretty close, dim it.
All right, that's close enough, right? Welcome, good to have you.
Thank you. I have hard copies, but I think we're good with electronic. Okay.
I just read highlighted stuff.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to provide an update on the Jeffress 230 kilovolt electric transmission line project.
Into the night.
I'm great. It was a little toasty.
She's gonna fix it for you.
Lock that thing up.
Technical difficulties.
Great. So some of this information may be, you've probably heard it before, but I think it's important to tell the story. So on the next slide, oh, sorry. Oh, it's a PDF. Is that going to make a difference? Yeah. I'm so sorry. So this next slide shows our current electric transmission system. So as you're aware, we have new load centers or data centers coming to the area. And I think this slide is so important because you can see the existing lines on the slide. Those are existing transmission lines that we have in place, and the triangles are our existing substations. And you can see the red circles. It's where the load centers or data centers are going. But the type of transmission line that we currently have, it's not sufficient to meet the load that's coming, or is it directly in the area where it's needed? So on the next slide, we do have a good plan in place for these load centers. At Dominion, we're identifying them as the Butler Farm project, the South Hill project, and the Jeffress project. And the Jeffress one is the one I'm providing the update on today. So on the next slide, whenever we route for new electric transmission lines, it's probably one of the most challenging things we do at Dominion Energy because we know the impact this has on landowners. So we try to co-locate with other infrastructure if we can. We want to be respectful of people's homes, and we try to stay close to property boundaries. But there's a lot of constraints as well. So environmental impacts, tribal property. So our routers, they're constantly trying to figure out the least impactful way to route a transmission line. On the next slide, for the Jeffress project, what is needed is we need to build approximately 18 to 21 miles of new 2 single-circuit 230 kilovolt electric transmission lines from the Finneywood substation site, which is north of Chase City, to the Jeffress substation site, which is north of Clarksville. And so the approximate right-of-way width is 120 feet. And on the next slide, we have an image of what these structures would look like. So again, it's the 120-foot right-of-way, on average 120 feet tall. And these are those 2 single-circuit, what we call monopole structures. So you can see the arms are facing inward, and they are weathering steel. So they'll be brown in color. On the next slide, we have an aerial rendering of what this would look like. So the existing image up top, you can see all the forested areas, and we would have to clear for that right-of-way. So you can see the proposed at the bottom. So the next slide shows the routing alternatives that we went into 2 open house events with. We had 4 routing alternatives, one of which we had a variation. And there's one route that goes to the west of Chase City, and then routing alternatives 2, 3, and 4, they all start to the east of Chase City, and then you can see they break up, and they all end up back down at the Jeffress substation. On the next slide is a recap of the 2 open houses that we had for this project. They were both in February. The first meeting was highly attended. We held it in Chase City. The second meeting was in Clarksville. A lot of the concerns that we had, pretty much no one wants electric transmission lines. No one wants solar. We had concerns about broadband, just that they know it's coming, but not coming soon enough. Aesthetics, property value. A lot of these are, I will share, just not unique. These are pretty common themes that we hear for any new transmission line project, but definitely well-attended meetings. Continuing with our routing study, routing is an iterative process, and so we ended up dismissing 2 of the routes that we had originally proposed. There was Army Corps owned land, cost, community feedback that we received, the length. They were the longest in length, which typically means more impacts, plan development, the proximity to residential homes, and there were also VOF restrictions as well. So when our team went back, that had only left us with routing alternatives 3 and 4, and they actually share an alignment for over 50% of their length. So we thought we should have a new routing alternative to show to the community and to the Virginia State Corporation Commission as well. So we went back to the community at another open house to show these updated routes. And so on the next slide, we have the details from that meeting. We had about 50 people in attendance. We had photo simulations, and again, the updated routes as well. The feedback is generally the same: aesthetics, property value, EMF, wanting to maintain that rural lifestyle, not wanting things to change, but a pretty decent turnout. I think personally, the reason we had less attendance is from the first meetings, most of those residents lived near routes 1 and 2 that came to the community meetings. But our project team is always available, like through email, through phone. The project website is a great way to see the photo simulations, and we also have this tool called GeoVoice, which I'll talk about in a minute. But on the next couple slides, I'll go through these fairly quickly. But these are some of the photo simulations that we had presented at the community meetings. And as the routes get updated or changed, we do update the photo sims as we make those changes. And so I just selected one from each of the routes so you can see them. But if you want to keep going through, the existing's on top and proposed is on the bottom. So this is the GeoVoice tool I was mentioning. So found on our project website, and it's actually very slick. You can type in your address. If it's just a land parcel, we have the parcel boundaries outlined so you can zoom into the area. There's a measuring tool, so if landowners want to know how close is my property to the closest routing alternative, you can measure that as well. There's a print feature, so we had landowners come to the meeting and they would print an image of their parcel and they would draw on it and say, is this something that you can do? Is this feasible? So that's really helpful. It's definitely a great tool to track as the routes get refined. So landowners can also sign up for GeoVoice, and if you sign up, you can leave a comment for the project team as well. So there's multiple avenues for landowners to ask us questions. On the next slide, you're probably familiar with the Virginia State Corporation Commission. So that's the agency that ultimately has jurisdiction over the routing of these transmission lines. And then, of course, pending SEC approval, we would have to get other permits as well. But touching more on the SEC process, it's pretty lengthy. It can be anywhere from 8 to 12 to 24 months, just depending on complications of the project. But essentially, Dominion takes all of our documents, or I like to say our homework, and we submit it to the SEC. And essentially, the SEC will decide, did Dominion prove that this project was needed? And does the route minimize impacts? So those are the things that they're looking for. But I always convey to landowners that once we submit our application to the SEC, that doesn't mean it's over. So there's still opportunities for input for landowners within the SEC process, and that's identified by the orange circles on that diagram. And we have that on our project website as well. The next slide shows our project timeline. I mentioned the Butler Farm and South Hill project earlier. I will add that those projects are already submitted with the SEC, and so right now we're just waiting to hear a ruling from the SEC, and we do anticipate that this summer. But for the Jeffress project specifically, we began our engagement in early 2023. We had those community meetings in February and April, and we are planning to file our application this summer. And then pending SEC and permit approval, We'll begin construction in early 2025 and then finish in 2026. So that concludes the formal presentation. Happy to take any questions that you may have.
Questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Staff just wanted y'all to be updated with what was going on, because I know y'all are getting questions from your community citizens.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay, Budget and Finance meeting, Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will let Mr. Hargrove present what he wants to present before
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. That came to my attention, and I shared it with the upper echelon, and we found out that it was not permissive, and that was a request for county supplements for salaries of employees of the circuit court, as the second district court, and it is not feasible for us to do it. And plus, I didn't let you all know that we could not do it. So I'm just letting you know that in such of a statement of code, we will not and cannot do that. And there are other things that we need to do to the courts as well, upgrades for technology and so forth. There's a bit of money to be spent there, but also to let us know, and Mr. Carter can also clarify what needs to be done as far as coding.
It's General District and J&DR Court. The circuit court are considered our employees. They are constitutional officers, and all constitutional officers, all their employees are considered county employees. The others are considered state employees. Some localities do give supplements. I think once you start down that road, you slip down a very slippery slope. Where do you stop supplementing which state employee? You could be funding VDOT and everybody else that does things worse in your county. So of that. We do have a lot of upgrades. Alex has it in the budget for the upcoming year with regards to security cameras and technology over the next 2 years. Right?
Okay.
Almost $850,000.
Yeah. In year one, we have about that, and then year two, we have another 350 or so.
So we have over $1 million worth of upgrade. Okay, and we just thought that we would let you know that. Sure. So that in case you were asked, that's the reason why.
I was actually
appreciate you bringing that
a
up.
couple employees too about the same thing. So I clarified it just as we have been clarifying it here.
We only fund local employees. We don't fund any.
They're not our employees, bottom line.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The Budget and Finance Committee met on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. in the Board of Supervisors meeting room. Members present: Jim Jennings, Chairman; David Brankley, Charles Jones, Tom Tanner, Sterling Wilkinson. Also present: Glenn Barber, Brenda Blackwell, Claudia Lundy, Andy Hargrove, Wayne Carter, County Administrator; Alex Gottschall, Deputy County Administrator; Ed Taylor, Commissioner of Revenue; Sandra Langford, Treasurer. The chairman called the meeting to order. The committee discussed the following additions to the staff recommended fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Each were presented by the supervisor that sponsored the request, and I will just read briefly these requests. Contribution to the town of La Crosse for Allen Park, $250, which is a recurring, and Mr. Tanner brought that forward. South Hill Yellow Jackets facility work, $40,000 one time. Mr. Brankley brought that forward. PILT payment to the town of Boynton, $7,500 recurring. Ms. Blackwell brought that up. McCullen Moore Museum and Gardens operations, $74.78 recurring, and a $2,100 one-time payment. Ms. Blackwell also brought that. Lake Country Regional Airport, Moore purchase, $8,000 one time, sponsored by Mr. Jones. Clarksville Community Players Children Theater, $5,000 recurring, sponsored by Mr. Jones. Lake Life Live sponsorship, $5,000 recurring, sponsored by Mr. Jones. Robbins Park repairs in Clarksville, $15,000 one time, Mr. Jones. And non-general fund opioid abatement study, $20,000 one time payment. And upon the motion of Mr. Brinkley, the committee voted unanimously to recommend approval of the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget as presented, and there being no further business, the meeting was adjourned.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Economic Development, Mr. Jones.
The Economic Development Committee met on Monday, May 8th, 2023 at 9 a.m. in the morning in the Board of Supervisors meeting room, Warden, Virginia. Members present: Charles Jones, Chairman; Tom Tanner; Jim Jennings; Sterling Wilkinson. Others present: Glenn Barber, David Brinkley, Claudia Lundley, Andy Hargrove, Wayne Carter, County Administrator; Alex Gottschalk, Deputy County Administrator. Chairman called the meeting to order. Mr. Carter reviewed the bid received from the Bishop Campus Water Supply Contract A-12 water line, 12-inch water line. 3 bids were received. Upon a motion by Mr. Tanner, the committee unanimously voted to recommend approval of the lowest bid, which was from KCH Contracting at a cost of $419,475. There being no further business, the meeting was adjourned. I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve this.
So moved.
Now you've heard the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Where are those minutes?
Well,
where are the minutes you were reading from? I don't have those.
He just gave him a copy of it.
I just did them right before the meeting started.
Just give me one.
Yeah.
All right, so, okay.
We had 3 bids, that was the lowest.
So you've made the motion. All right.
Yeah, I made it.
We have a motion to accept, yeah. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, I got lost there for a minute. Okay, next comes the adoption of our 2023-2024 budget. And the first order of business is that we have to adopt a budget ordinance. Mr. Gottschalk, you have any comments to make before we move on that?
This ordinance effectuates the information that Mr. Jennings related regarding the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee to adopt the budget.
Okay. All right. So I need a motion then. That we adopt the budget ordinance as presented.
Make a motion,
That-
Mr. Chairman.
That is going to be a roll call vote, by the way.
Yes, I'm gonna roll call everything, actually.
We adopt the budget ordinance for fiscal year 2023-2024.
All right, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? Roll call, Jenny?
Mr. Brinkley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lundy,
Yes.
Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
Mr. Hargrove?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkinson?
Yes.
Ms. Blackwell?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes. Okay, all right, motion approved, thank you. Next, we have to adopt our tax ordinance. There has been no change in our tax rates relative to this budget. So we need a motion then to adopt the tax ordinance.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adopt the tax ordinance. Any further discussion? Roll call, Jenny?
Mr. Brinkley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lundy,
Yes.
Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
Mr. Hargrove?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkinson?
Yes.
Ms. Blackwell?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes. Okay, motion passes, thank you. Next is the approval of our capital improvement plan, which of course is all a part of our budget. We need a motion then to approve the capital improvement plan.
Mr. Chair, so moved.
Motion to approve the capital improvement plan. Any discussion? I don't know that we need a roll call on that, do we? Or do we not? Let's do one anyway. Jenny? Won't hurt.
Mr. Brinkley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lundy,
Yes.
Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
Mr. Hargrove?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkinson?
Yes.
Ms. Blackwell?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Next is the authorization of end-of-the-year interfund transfers. We do this annually just to balance up the books, if you will. So we need a motion to authorize these year-end interfund transfers.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
You've heard the motion in discussion. Roll call?
Mr. Brinkley?
Yes.
Ms. Lundy.
Yes.
Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
Mr. Hargrove?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkinson?
Yes.
Ms. Blackwell?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you all so much. And again, thanks to our staff and everyone involved in preparing our budget. Excellent job, and so we appreciate all those efforts. Mr. Carter, County Administrator's report.
Yes, sir. We'll try to be fairly brief. Building permits are still holding up, as you can see. So we're very pleased with that, as well as reports. Animal control report is in here, as well as the sheriff's, if you have any questions on that. Any issues? Almost 2,500 business checks over the last month. We have Southside Behavioral Health's report in here. First items to take an action on are an agreement between Mecklenburg and Charlotte County with Mutual Aid EMS. The county attorney has reviewed that, and staff is recommending approval. We'd also like authorization to sign a similar agreement with Lunenburg. John is working on that currently, and it will be set up and formatted the same as the one with Charlotte County.
All right, let me get to that. Okay.
17.
Yep, got it. All right, so we need a motion then to adopt this mutual aid agreement.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adopt the mutual aid agreement is presented. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Next, we have a resolution with regards to the Meharron River Regional Jail. The way the original jail document was set up, we used the previous year's average daily ADM for them that are there, population. What we're looking at going to is a 3-year rolling average. And the reason being, last year you could have a spike, so therefore any of us have, and we have in the past over the last 15 years, you get this spike up and down, which can greatly affect your amount of what you have to pay per year. The 3-year rolling average can flatten the bell curve, for lack of a better word. You'll still end up paying the same amount over that 3-year period. It's just you won't be having the high spikes and decreases. So we think this would be the best. It does allow us in the original agreement to change our funding formula if all 3 counties agree to that. The board agreed to it unanimously at our meeting last week. Mr. Tanner was there, and all 3 counties will be meeting on it over the next 2 weeks. We're first. So staff is recommending approval of this resolution.
This makes it easy from a budgetary alignment point of view.
Yeah, it cuts out the spikes.
And we've had
Like
where
the
you go
electric
up
bill,
50.
you don't want a $300 bill than a $100 bill.
And that's what's actually.
You don't want surprises when it comes to money.
I mean, we've had 8-10% swings in a year in terms of our portion of membership.
I mean, it's business. That's the way you should do business. To be honest.
So we're just flattening the bell curve.
Okay. Excellent. All right, a motion to adopt the regional jail resolution.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
You've heard the motion in discussion. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Next, we need to prove this is a code project. I know there's been a lot of discussion about upgrading both the boat docks or accessibility from water at Clarksville, our only lake town. Right now, you have the town dock. It has a limited number of spaces. Who've ever been around Clarksville, seen people pull up all the docks because you can only get about 10 in there, maybe 12, and then people just have to drive away. What they're looking at, the code project was on the backside of BIB and the motel right there behind the water treatment plant, going back to 3rd Street, I believe that is. Yeah. And we're looking at putting in 16 docks at this point in time as a first phase of that. They're looking at you have the funding formula in here. There is a grant with the state. This town would be putting up $150,000. The county, while they haven't listed with ARPA funding, we have to see how much ARPA funding we have left, because we've had, y'all like last month, a couple months ago, reallocated a bunch of ARPA funding for food pantries. But we wouldn't need this till the FY25 budget. And I've spoken to Jeff that we would have that in our next year's budget as a one-time capital, and do it from that perspective versus in this.
Provided they get the grant.
Right, provided they get the grant, of course. Yes, thank you. Because this is they get the grant or grants. They might have to cobble this with not only the state grant, but all maybe tobacco commission, et cetera. There are many different grants out there. We're gonna kind of cobble them together. This would actually take the entire amount of the state funding formula for this program to do this. So we'll have to see if they can get that. But staff is recommending that y'all approve this project for funding, and we will then send the letter in. It's due, actually, tomorrow, thanks, today. So,
I've been hearing about the Cove project since I've been on a board.
No, it's
dramatically
the
decreased.
Cove project was morphed greatly. At one time, they were gonna take out 3rd Street, dredge that entire area all the way back up to 4th Street. All behind those businesses, put in stationary docking system, which unfortunately really wasn't gonna work because car goes up and down so much. Part of that docking system would have been under, during floods, 10 to 15 foot of water. The boards really don't stand up good under that, just there's a little pressure there. This is a floating system, which will work much better, I think. And also, we were looking at 100 spots. I think one of the ideas here is let's slowly move ourselves into this, 16 at a time. We can go back, look at the town dock later. Tina, would you agree from a tourism standpoint? Trying to put in 50 spots, grow it and see how, with the other 16, how many more people come? How much is used?
This is a way to get started.
What kind of time frame they got?
You're looking at this, you have a time on here, you would have construction in 2025. Literally, that's.
That chart there, okay.
Yeah, so we wouldn't have to have any of our funding, and I've spoken to Jeff, we'd put our money in the FY25 budget. If we get this, but maybe they'll get some of this, they can apply for some tobacco money, there might be some other grants out there that they could cobble together, because until we get this money.
Does the Tobacco Commission do stuff like that?
They do tourism.
Yeah.
We'll have to see whether this would qualify. I mean, it's all kinds of different grants out there, just, this might be one, might have multiple.
With, the stores being closed down on the right side, open up foot traffic in town. Then we've got there's still the project with 40 apartments, which that's still go with the planning commission. Clark's planning commission, we talked to David about that just the other day. They're ready to go as soon as they get a couple details worked out. So we're gonna open up streets.
So obviously it's gonna be designed for growth.
Yes. Right. And you can see that you've only got one part. This goes considerably farther down towards BIB on the point right there. Yeah.
Right.
You can easily get another 16, I'd say, in there. Their access is coming in by the land that the town owns where the water treatment plant is. The parking lot back in that way for foot traffic to come in and out. There might be some other ramps, but that's what we're looking at right now.
Very good.
So we would like for the board to endorse this project for funding.
Okay, all right.
You gotta have a motion?
Yes, sir.
Yep, gotta have a motion to endorse it.
I like to make the motion that we.
All right, we have a motion to endorse.
Cove project.
We have a motion to endorse the Clarksville Cove project. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
One last item. We got Friday a request from the Southside Planning District Commission. They're doing a CBDG grant application for phase 2 of the B Street project in Chase City. As part of that, we always leverage our building permit fees. It's estimated to be $850. We would request authorization to actually waive those building permit fees.
Okay, all right. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved, Mr. Gass.
All right, we have a motion to waive those fees for this CDBG grant. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
One other quick thing. We did have fishing tournament last weekend. Maybe Tina can give us a quick update on that, if y'all don't mind.
No, don't mind at all.
You found in front of you a memento from last week's event, some nice headwear from the Bassmasters, courtesy of the Bassmasters. So, last week we had, I'll get you one. So last week we had the Bassmasters come to town. This is a professional level circuit. They started rolling into town last Friday. We had 223 professional anglers in addition to another 180 co-anglers. They arrived last Friday for a 3-day tournament that started on Wednesday. They had practice days built in, but they were representing 36 states and 5 foreign countries. Anybody who rode through Clarksville noticed their presence, I promise you. And so it was a 3-day tournament. They brought lots of media. That was one of the best things about this, not only having all these new folks here but they brought a really heavy media presence. But not only the Bassmasters folks, some of the professional anglers brought their own media. So we had lots and lots of press coverage going on around this event. Based on what I understand from what they spent through surveys and what I understand an average angler spent, I can easily estimate $500,000 was spent here over that 7 days. They stayed in Clarksville. They packed out Clarksville. They stayed in South Hill. They were eating in our restaurant, shopping in our shops, everything we want them to do, right? At the end of the tournament, we had 2 winners. The co-angler winner went away with a $18,000 check, and the professional angler had a $52,000 check in his pocket for catching 45 pounds of fish. At the end of the day, the live release boat let go 5,000 pounds of fish in the lake. That's how many were caught.
Wow.
And they only lost 7. So their conservation efforts are excellent. They run a really smooth show. I was pleased. Everything went smoothly. Everybody was happy. It was a really, really great event.
Very good.
There were some beautiful boats and beautiful rigs pulling them.
Oh, yeah.
All painted up like country music stars or something.
Lots of high-dollar boats were here.
It was
for
something.
sure.
Excellent.
And a lot of them stayed for the Lake Live concert on Saturday night because they were asking me what. And I told them about it. They didn't know anything about it.
Right.
So that was good to hear.
Good. That's great.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have. Second team.
All right, thank you. Okay, you have
wait,
any-
one thing. Tina, the slides going to be in August now?
August 11th and 12th.
Okay. Everybody, mark that down on your calendar.
What days were that again?
August 11th.
Slide.
What is it?
2-day event.
Slide.
The slide.
The one Wayne's
That's
going
like
to.
Mr. Carter supposed to be the first one to
Yep.
test that out.
Yeah.
The inaugural.
We might watch a 15-year-old. The mind might be 25, but the body's still 62. Okay, just want y'all to know that. And it reminds me of it regularly.
Body stuck on Band-Aid, it could be stuck on Wayne.
Mr. Hargrove,
wrap you a bubble pack.
You will provide emergency services.
He will.
And
Oh,
prayers
you
too.
had to go by the brewery. You gonna have to go by the brewery first.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, me. Okay, you have in your packet the Lake Country Regional Airport minutes and treasurer's report from April. That's for informational purposes. We've got some appointments we need to address. I think, well, the term of Frances Clark expires June the 30th. She's not eligible for reappointment to the Southside Behavioral Health Board. Did we table this from last month?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any candidates at this point in time? Anybody?
We have not heard from anybody. If you would like for us to, we'll be glad to contact the CSD board.
Yeah,
See if
that'd
they
be,
have anyone.
They were talking to some people, but they haven't given me any names yet.
okay.
So
Yeah,
right now we're-
that'd be great.
Table it again.
All right, so we'll table that. We'll just table that until further notice. How about
She's been
that?
a long-term member. She's been a long-term member.
Yeah. Okay. All right, the next is Tri-County Community Action Board. We need to make an appointment. It does not have to be a board member. Mr. Spain was the representative on the board. So we're replacing his position.
Any board member want to do it?
Yeah, does any board member want to volunteer for
I
that?
think Ms. Lundy's expressed an interest in it. Would you do it, Ms. Lundy?
Yeah.
I make a motion, we nominate Ms. Lundy to that.
Oh, she changes her mind?
We're not nominating, we're drafting.
Yeah.
All in favor of Ms. Lundy serving on the Tri-County Community Action Agency Board, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can you volunteer? Don't forget you volunteer.
That's what you call unanimous consent. All right, you also have in your packet the consent calendar. I hope you've had an opportunity to review that. If there are no questions of Ms. Langford, we need a motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented. Just wanted to wake you up, Sandra.
Move to adopt the consent calendar.
Motion to adopt consent calendar as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Slayton is going to go over some 2232 reviews.
Yes, sir. As the board knows, applicants for solar facilities have to apply for a determination that their project is in substantial compliance with the county's comp plan. The Planning Commission has 60 days from the date of receipt of the application to act, and if the Planning Commission fails to act, it's deemed approval. However, the Code of Virginia permits extensions, and they're granted by the Board of Supervisors. The Planning Commission has asked for an extension of its 2232 review deadline for two projects. Both are RC Devco LLC projects. The first is called the New Hope Agri-Solar LLC project. If you adopt this resolution, you will extend the deadline for the Planning Commission to September 5, 23. Staff recommendation is adoption.
Okay. So, we've got two of them here. We're doing them individually?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion then to extend this New Hope Agri-Solar 2232 review. So we have a motion. And we have a motion to.
Who made the motion?
Mr. Jones.
One of them.
Mr. Jones, we have a motion to extend, to approve that extension. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the other is substantially identical, except this is for the Lone Oak Agriculture application. When staff recommends adoption or approval.
Okay, can I get a motion on that?
Motion to adopt.
All right, we have a motion to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right.
The, as a part of the renovation and construction of the new Clarksville Elementary School, it was necessary to acquire some property that adjoins the current school site in order to provide adequate parking and traffic flow and other purposes. This went on for quite a while, and I would just like to acknowledge that Alex did a very good job negotiating with the property owners. The county took the lead on this, but ultimately it's a school board's property as part of their project. So if you adopt the resolution before you, you will authorize, although it's under contract with the county, that the property be conveyed not to the county, but instead to the Mecklenburg County School Board. Recommendation of staff is adoption of the resolution.
Okay. All right, we need a motion to adopt that resolution.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adopt the resolution for the option of purchase rights. Any further discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right. That brings us to board member matters. Ms. Blackwell, you want to start out with comments?
Yes, I'm glad to see that in the county, in this area, that so many now have access to the high-speed internet. And it's good to see the success of the bass tournament. It increases the visibility of this area, which will be a great economic impact.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Franklin, you want to go next?
Well, I'd just like to tell Tina, thank you for the job y'all did down there. Everybody I talked to was real happy with what went on down there. That was well handled and well done project at. The other thing, you know, we go through another budget, no tax increase. We spend a lot more money, and, you know, it looks like the county, the residents of our constituents have a lot of faith in us, because to spend that kind of money and not have a building full of people with something to say about that, I think it's pretty remarkable. I can't imagine another county that would have that, what we got here. So, you know, I think the board and the staff and all have done a good job with that. And so that's about all I got today.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hargrove?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wickler and I was discussing earlier about the budget and about local interests. And this morning, a lot of it was on roads and so forth. But when we came down to presenting the budget, nobody showed up. And so and sometimes you ask yourself, where are their values? Where do their values really lie? And we understand there are a lot of roads that are out there that needs to be paved. And I believe in due time it shall be. But each and every year or biannually, however it comes by, these road changes, the count changes and so forth. So sometimes some are added and some are taken out. I think this is what we agreed to some years ago. and things do changes. And I also like to say that, Tina, thank you so very much for overseeing all the activities of especially the tournaments and so forth. Yeah, there were some nice cars, trucks, and some nice boats that were going up and down the road. That was very nice. And also, but I do want to share something with you all, and I hope y'all can sympathize with me. I was invited to a movie night this past weekend, and my comrade across from me, and I had asked him several times that he had a cow out there with 19 that I wanted some of that meat the next time we cooked. And so when he got there, I saw him cooking hamburgers and so forth. I said, well, maybe I got me some 19, some of that cow he had out there. Well, before we had prayer to eat dinner, he presented me a special entity of that cow. And that is, he says, I'm going to give you this number 19. He put this 19 on the plate, and he said, this is about as close as you're going to get to that cow. So I thank you, Mr. Franklin, for 19. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If you put that in the oven on broil,
It's going to take a lot of A1 sauce too.
right. All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Lundy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank the Budget Committee for doing a marvelous job finishing the budget on time, no tax increase, and I had no telephone calls. Thanks, Wayne, Alex, and all his supporters. Broadband, I'm very pleased with the 4,000 plus that have signed up. I hope they end up getting the broadband. We need it. And Tina always, what a great job she does with this county. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hitting back on what everybody said, you know, passing a budget of this size and what we really have going on in this county. I mean, you know, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but we are blessed in so many ways to be able to do that. People just don't realize. You just don't realize it. So we have a lot to be thankful for. And back to the fiber, I think it was 2,066 active accounts. A few years ago, they presented to us that in 3 years they would have it to every house. You know, I thought that was a bit ambitious,
Yeah.
and it is. But we are going the right way. I'm pleased with the work thus far to be able to get that much done in a short amount of time. And again, thanks to Tina and all with that. I've heard such good things from it, and even on the rural side, a lot of my district is rural. The local stores and all were full of these fishermen. And you could tell they were out of towners, but I mean, that's just more revenue to the local base. So that's all I had.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Town.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, as everybody else has said, thank Alex and Wayne and Judy and everybody on their hard work on the budget. To be able to do a budget of this size with no tax increase, but also without the state having finished their work yet, I think speaks volumes of the work they're able to do. I know from the EMS side, we're doing well hiring our EMS employees for the upcoming 2 agencies that we'll have to take over. And we spoke, Wayne and I went to the regional jail meeting last week, and I wanted to assure everyone they're working hard to try to get our jail back open. It's just down to a numbers game. They've got to get enough employees to be able to do it safely, to be able to open hours back up. But we are moving in the right direction. So hopefully soon, we'll be able to do something with that. Also, Tina with tourism, great job. Anytime we can get that many folks here, it's not the middle of the summer, that's good. And 2, talking about the 5-year road plan thing, is there anything that we can do maybe? I know it's on our website, we've still got a COVID button on there. Could we maybe change the COVID button to an information button about putting something out there about how the 5-year plan is done, or either a link to VDOT, something for these people to be able to go to be able to better understand the process? Because, I think people see that they say we're getting put on next year's budget or next year's 5-year road plan, but they still might be 5 years down the road from it. So I think just some educational material maybe for them, or a link to be able to send them to something, I think would be great. Other than that, I do want to take a minute to recognize the South Hill Fire Department. They have purchased a new rescue truck, which is going to be a tremendous asset for this county. They were invited to take it and display it at the FDIC International Show in Indianapolis, which is very huge for a volunteer rural department. And I think they represented the town and the county very well. And I think it's going to be a tremendous asset to everybody in the county, because they will go to help anyone. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Mr. John?
Well, I'd just like to praise Tina and all that she's done, and for tourism, when you think about those dollars, they come in, but the people don't use our school systems or anything that really hit our budget so hard. They come, they spend their money, and they go home, and that's the best kind of money to have. But the fact that we had the bass tournament, and then we had the Lake Live shows every month, and then you throw in Lake Fest, and then in August we've got the water slide. I mean, we got a lot of things around here for people to do and enjoy, and we are definitely on a lot of people's lists to visit this area and possibly even make a home here. And I just like to praise Tina and all she does. And this budget, like it's been said many, many times by other people on the board here, it's just amazing that we could spend the money we're spending and not raise taxes. I mean, that's a lot to be said here. And I give all the people that put this together, Mr. Alex over there and the staff that put this together, all the praise that they deserve. And that's about it, other than what everybody else has already said. So I'm not going to repeat.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody, when you get to go last, I guess everybody says everything, but I totally agree with what, everybody said. And I can't thank staff enough and this board for how this budget came together and just works out really well. And I guess when people don't show up, that is definitely a sign of approval, because when they don't agree with you, they do show up. So
it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I told Mr. Bob over here before the meeting started, we do every year this time what the federal government hasn't done since 1996, is balance a budget. Hopefully maybe things will change there, but hadn't in 20-some years. But anyway, thank everybody, and I'll let you go.
All right, thanks, sir. Mr. Henry, on this boat storage thing, I think it'd be a good idea to suggest to the developer, property owners, that they get a landscaping plan, a plan drawn up, and try to meet with these homeowners and show them what they're planning on doing, and try to reach some kind of a compromise on this thing. And because, I mean, these folks, they kind of get this cold. They don't really, you say what you're gonna do, but show me what you're gonna do, kind of a thing. I think it might, go
Yeah,
down.
I'll reach out to Rick and get him to do a landscape.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to just, just have a little get together with the homeowners and say, hey, look, and try to smooth that thing going. Because I can understand their concern.
And the other thing is, if he doesn't do the conditions that the planning commission put against him, the special exception permit is revoked. He has to take everything off the property.
Right, okay. Okay.
I
Anyway.
agree with you, Mr. Barber, but that, it's a neighborly thing.
Yeah.
I
mean, just-
think
yeah.
it's great.
Fantasy, him too, that is a boat
Some
area,
barriers.
but he needs to
Because I
do,
got a big mess.
get
It
along
is.
with his neighbors.
Well, everybody, you gotta lobby and sell it.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Right.
It is.
And, I mean, we got a lot going on in our county. We really do. We've just, and from what I've been able to assess, it's all positive. And that's a good thing. And, it's, our citizens put a lot of trust in our board and our staff to run this county in an efficient manner. And I can't help but say that your mission accomplished, and I thank you all for that. We do have to go into closed session for a legal matter, so I need a motion to go into closed session.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to go into closed session. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We will take about 5 minutes.
Have we got long?
into open session. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're now in open session. Motion to certify. We have a motion to certify closed session. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, folks, no action from closed session. And thank you all. It's about what I figured we'd be here.
You did good.
So, yeah.
You said 12:30.
I did say 12:30.